It is another edition of Time About the Movies, and no, your eyes are not deceiving you. If you saw my Karate Kid Legends trailer review over on the Reviewing Network Live earlier today, you may have noticed that I had hair, and now, 12 hours later, I don't. I got my hair cut. That's basically the short answer here, but yeah, that's why my hair looks a lot different than the last time I saw you guys on this or the other channel, but you're not here for that, though, so I just wanted to get that out of the way so people didn't know what was going on with my hair and all that, but you're here to hear me talk about the 4 films released on December 19th, 2008. As we are getting closer to the end of the year, getting close to Christmas time, we have a wide assortment of different movies here. We have a comedy with Jim Carrey in it, Will Smith trying to go after that Oscar again, Universal in one of their last animated movies before Illumination kind of became their go-to animation department, and Mickey Rourke delivering a masterpiece of a film in Darren Aronofsky's latest film, but we'll get to all those later. Let's begin by taking a look at the biggest new release of the weekend, and I guess some could say that this is a much better movie than the number 23, but is it really for Jim Carrey? Let's talk about Yes Man.
It's the first word we learn, and some people
We're having a funny hat and or wig party. When is it? Friday.
never grow out of it.
No. Yes.
But Carl's about to discover
I do want to learn how to fly. Yes, I would like to learn Korean.
what he's always been missing.
You can say yes to everything. Exactly. 제가 천천한 친구요. 나를 굉장히 싫어해요.
Yes Man in theaters this December.
Well, if Jim Carrey ain't gonna say it, then I'm gonna say it. No. No to this movie, man. This is another one of those movies where I saw it back in the day, didn't think it was all that bad overall, thought it was mostly kind of forgettable, and I mean, like I said, it wasn't a bad movie, it was just completely forgettable, and so after all these years, I'm getting ready to watch this again to talk about it, and yeah, it's not as good as I thought it was before, but you have Jim Carrey starring as Carl Allen, who's at a standstill, no future until the day he enrolls in a personal development program based on a very simple idea: say yes to everything. Carl discovers with amazement the magical power of yes and sees his professional and romantic life turned upside down overnight. An unexpected promotion and a new girlfriend, played by Zooey Deschanel, but he'll soon discover that better can be good's enemy, and that not all opportunities should be taken. And that right there kind of sums up a lot of the major problems with the movie. This is another one of those movies that's trying to be something on the lines of something like A Liar Liar or a Bruce Almighty or Me, Myself, and Irene. The Jim Carrey formula where he's a normal guy, but he has this one quirk or some big magical fantastical event that has to happen, like in Liar Liar. He can't tell a lie, and that was funny. Bruce Almighty, he meets God and has all of his powers now, and that's funny. Me, Myself, and Irene, he has a split personality, and that's funny. Here, he just has to say yes to everything, because if he doesn't, the universe basically will give him bad luck or something like that. Or not even bad luck, really. It's just like, nothing is really preventing him in this movie from saying no to everything here. Like, they put this guy in a lot of uncomfortable circumstances, or circumstances that are completely unnecessary. There's a part of the movie where, you know, his next door neighbor, who's an older woman played by, I think it's Finola Flanagan. You've seen her in a lot of stuff before, but she wants to have sex with him, and, you know, he keeps telling her no, and then after he goes through this thing, like, he has to have sex with her, and it's just like, why is that funny? Why do I feel like why do I need to watch that? He has an ex-wife in the movie played by, I think it's Molly Sims from Las Vegas. Like, there's a part of the movie where she wants to get back together with him, and he's already been better off without her, and yet the universe still has to come in and say, you know, you gotta do it, because if you don't say yes, then life's gonna completely fall down on you, or at least that's what they're trying to apply here. But yeah, nothing that happens in this movie makes any goddamn sense at all. Even at the very end, where he has to go to the guy who runs the seminar that tells him about this, Malcolm McDowell, or Terrence Stamp, excuse me, not Malcolm McDowell, I'm sorry, I got those two guys mixed up. Terrence Stamp, who basically tells him that it's complete bullshit. So if it's complete bullshit, then why the hell is everything going on around him then? Like, what's the takeaway from this movie? Like, what are you supposed to get out of it when this whole movie is basically just Jim Carrey just can't say yes to anything until somebody tells him, hey, say yes or bad things will happen to you. And again, nothing real. There's no reason why all these things are happening to him if it's complete bullshit. Like, nothing about this makes any sense whatsoever. At least in something like Good Luck Chuck, there was a reason why Dane Cook had all these relationships where he breaks up with them, and then the next time they see him, she was already engaged. Like, they at least give you an explanation of that. You don't even need an explanation. One of the greatest examples, Groundhog Day. I think the greatest example. Like, you never find out why Bill Murray is reliving the same day over and over again, but you don't give a crap about it because you're so invested in what's going on regardless. And here, it just feels like they ran out of ideas as soon as they had the premise and they had Jim Carrey, because it's just like, well, Jim Carrey is very funny and he can make movies like this work, so let's just go ahead and let him do that. And as we've proven time and time again, like, Jim Carrey can make a lot of stuff work, but here, I really feel like he was pushing his luck on this one. And not only him, I feel like a lot of people that were involved in this really pushed their luck here, and it didn't end up working out in their favor. The directors of this was Peyton Reed, who very rarely misses. Like, this may be his worst film overall. I'm actually checking to see what else he did. I mean, this is the guy that did Bring It On. This is the guy that did Down with Love, The Breakup, the Ant-Man movies. Even Quantumania, which is not the best movie of that series, was still more enjoyable than this is. I feel like this movie was sold on the concept. They didn't bother to write the script overall and have a reason why everything is happening here. But this is one of those ones where you need to explain what the hell's going on here. And these aren't written by schmucks either. The co-writer of this is Nicholas Stoller, who did Forgetting Sarah Marshall, one of the best comedy of the year. Neighbors 2. You have Jared Paul, who, you know, he's been a writer on a number of different things. I mean, he's more known for, I mean, he started off working on television, doing stuff like Home Improvement, Seinfeld. You see him on a bunch of TV shows, but, I mean, this is the only thing he ever wrote in general. And I got him confused at first, because I thought it was the guy from the Virginity hit, but that's Jareb Dublaze, and we'll eventually get to that one in 2010, But yeah, there is talent across the board in this movie. It's produced by Richard D. Zanuck, who won the Academy Award for producing Driving Miss Daisy. David Heyman, you know, he's in the news recently because he and Amy Pascal just got the James Bond job at MGM. There's talent all out throughout the film, even in the cast. I mean, Zooey Deschanel, Bradley Cooper, John Michael Higgins, Terrence Stamp, Rhys Darby, Danny Masterson, you know, of course, before we found out he was a freaking creeper, Sasha Alexander, Molly Sims, you know, Rocky Carroll from NCIS, Melanie Flanagan, Luis Guzman. There is a lot of good talent in this film, and I feel like there is a good idea here, but just not enough execution. I feel like the film was selling itself before they even knew how this was going to end. It really does feel like a film that really just does not work the way I think it wanted to, and it just backfires big time. And it is probably the worst film that Peyton Reed has ever directed as a whole. It's a film that should have been so much better than it actually is, but really, just the fact that they had the idea, but they didn't have a good ending, and just basically just threw their hands up in the air and said, like, there's no reason for it whatsoever. This isn't even a real thing. It's just like, at that point, it's just like, okay, you've pretty much crossed the line on how much farther you can get along with this. And it would help if the stuff in there was funny, but there are very rarely few laughs in this movie. And bottom line, it's just a massive disappointment. It's a movie where there's so much talent there in the cast, the director, the writers, the producers. You expect so much more from them, but seeing this as being projected as the big holiday comedy hit, and it was a hit when it came out, but you ever notice that nobody ever really talks about it since then? Yeah, because it really is not as good as we make it out to be. And there's better movies. We'll have a better movie the week after this that's a fantasy comedy element where something mysterious happens to a certain comedic actor. We'll get to that next week, but this one, yeah, Yes Man, just say no. What I'm trying to say here is just say no to Yes Man. Plain and simple, So let's go ahead and get to the next movie we have here. Another disappointment from a respectable actor and the director as a whole. 7 Pounds, starring Will Smith.
God created the world, and in 7 seconds, I shattered mine.
What are you planning to do?
Then
Thomas has a secret.
I know I'm the girl with the broken wing, but who are you?
Only one person
Why is she under the impression your name is Ben?
will discover.
I don't want to keep lying to you.
Will Smith,
I haven't treated myself very well.
Start now.
from the director of The Pursuit of Happiness, 7 pounds, rated PG-13, everywhere December 19th.
7 pounds on Will Smith, then I cry like a bitch a lot.
No doubt.
Well, that's all he does in his movies, f***ing cry.
I mean, that's pretty much what the movie is. Will Smith's crying like a bitch throughout the course of the movie because he wants that Oscar so badly. But at least The Pursuit of Happiness was a good movie. This one, oh my god, this is Oscar bait to the ultimate core, man. This is a movie where you have Will Smith as a man who sets out to change the lives of 7 people because he's gonna die. And they don't. This is not me spoiling it for you. This is literally how the movie begins. And you know, all throughout the course of the movie, he meets all these different people, and he eventually falls in love with Rosario Dawson, and he has a brother played by Michael Ealy, and one of the people he helps out is Woody Harrelson and Barry Pepper. I mean, there is a lot of good people in this movie, and a good director who the last time Will Smith worked with gave him a really good movie with The Pursuit of Happiness, which was also Oscar baity, but it was still a really good movie. But this, oh my god, like, this movie is so starving for an Academy Award. Will Smith is so starving for an Academy Award. You almost want to tell him, you know what, dude, here, take the Oscar already, for the love of God. And even then, if you really wanted that badly, just go on to eBay. I'm sure eBay in 2008 had one of these. Okay, I've said before that this is my last time I was going to put this out here, but as you can tell, this is a great prop to use when I'm trying to go look at these movies that are begging for Oscars. Good movies, but also bad movies too. And yeah, again, I just love this thing, man. That's pretty much the reason why I put it out here, because yeah, this feels like the real thing. Okay, I'm putting it away. That joke's about it getting as old as my comedy gag that I do for bad comedies, but this movie really is terrible, and it's a movie that you get where they're trying to come across here. I mean, it's a good idea overall. You have this idea that Will Smith is this guy who's gonna die, and so he wants to change the lives of 7 different people that he meets. But the problem is, the movie is supposed to make him likable. You don't like this dude whatsoever. I mean, this dude, like, he does all these things to get attention, pretty much. I mean, the first 5 minutes is him literally destroying this apartment complex and saying out all these names. It's just like, what are you doing, dude? Like, what am I supposed to take away from this? But on top of that, like, the way he's gonna do, like, I'll save that for the end, though, but what he does here is, in this movie, is that he searches for all these names, but he also is doing all this under a different name, like his brother is named Ben, and that's Michael Ealy. And there's even a point in the movie where it's just like, dude, why are you stealing my identity for? And it's just like none of this makes any sense whatsoever. What am I supposed to take away from him? Because the dude lies. Like, this dude lies to get attention, pretty much. And then the way he kills himself at the end is so badly put together. I mean, he's gonna do it by killing himself by putting a jellyfish in a tub of ice water with him inside of it, and hopefully that's gonna sting him. And that already sounds stupid enough, but the way it's presented, I mean, this is supposed to be the big, serious tearjerker of the whole movie. And yet, when it finally happens, you can't help but laugh your ass off at how horribly funny this tragic moment is supposed to be. I mean, talk about a major misuse of tonal shifts. I mean, good lord. Like, just thinking about it right now is absolutely freaking hilariously bad. Like, this is everything that's wrong with an Oscar baitish movie like this. This is a film that nobody really paid attention to the script overall. This writer, Grant Neporte, I don't think has written anything notable. I mean, the most notable is, but then again, the other notable thing he ever wrote was Breakthrough. Remember that great movie that was supposed to, put our faith in this kid who was stupidly going into an icy river, a frozen river, and the ice breaks, and all of a sudden he's fighting for his life, but nobody's going to do anything because his Christian parents are saying that, no, God will do the work for you. It's just like, no, you deserve to die at that point. I'm sorry. And I can't believe, and it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. that the same writer who made that movie, which is so trying hard to get an Academy Award, this movie is written by the same person who made a movie that basically makes you want to root for somebody that you do not like at all. I'm surprised that this guy didn't write Dear Evan Hansen, because this reminded me so much of Dear Evan Hansen, because it's literally the same thing, where you have this kid who wants attention, and he basically makes up a lie, and instead of coming out and saying the truth, we have to keep going with this because we need to fill 2.5 hours. And yeah, this movie is just the perfect example of how not to make a movie like this, where you're supposed to like the main character and you don't like him at all. I am thankful that Will Smith finally got his Oscar for King Richard, a movie where he well deserved it. I mean, say what you will about the way he acted that night. He deserved to win that award, no matter what happened that night. He deserved to win it. He was great in King Richard. He wasn't giving a schlocky performance like he does in this movie. He was actually acting. He was acting his ass off, and it worked. It worked to that film's advantage. Here, it does not work at all. This is a terrible movie. This is a bad movie that is just melodramatic crap at its absolute worst. 7 Pounds is terrible. Avoid this movie like the plague. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the next movie. Can we find a good movie this weekend? We have an animated feature now coming up here, The Tale of Desperaux.
Time. Upon a time. They don't even tell you what time that is yet. It's like you have to find that out.
A rat caused a commotion. A princess became a prisoner. And a mouse went on an extraordinary adventure.
The princess! He's in danger! Get him!
From the beloved best-selling book, The Tale of Desperaux, rated G. In theaters December 19th.
As I said before, this is a pretty particular important movie for Universal because it was the last major animated movie they did before they eventually would make Illumination Entertainment their overall animation company, because in 2 years' time they would do Despicable Me, and the rest is history, the stuff that they've done since then. But mostly this is also back when the G rating still had merit. There was a purpose for its reason to exist, and not like now where they completely push it off to the side like it's a bad thing, like it's the equivalent of Looney Tunes and Warner Brothers with David Zaslav, but that's another thing altogether. But in this movie, based off the book, you have the tale of 3 unlikely heroes: a misfit mouse who prefers reading books to eating them, played by Matthew Broderick; an unhappy rat who schemes to leave the darkness of a dungeon; and a bumbling servant girl with cauliflower ears, played by Emma Watson, whose fates are intertwined with that of the castle's princess. And I think I read that wrong. Now, the princess is named is voiced by Emma Watson, and the girl in question is, I believe, played by Tracy Ullman, if I'm not mistaken. But this has a big cast regardless. Sigourney Weaver narrates it. Matthew Broderick plays the title character of Desperaux. Robbie Coltrane's in here. Dustin Hoffman, Richard Jenkins, Kevin Kline, Frank Langella, Willie Macy, Kieran Hines, and of course the aforementioned Ullman and Watson. And it's not a bad movie, really. It really is not a bad film. I really didn't see it back in the day because I thought it was just, okay. This is one I was just kind of probably never going to really get into, per se. And it just really didn't feel like it had much there. You have a mouse with Dumbo ears, or the Spill Crew used to call it back then, Will Smith ears, because I guess he had big ears back then. But at the same time, it's just like, it just never really got my attention overall. And I would watch animated movies back then, but me, I was just kind of like, yeah, this is probably one I'm never going to watch. And then I finally watch it, and it's just like, it's not bad overall. I think it was mostly the Nostalgia Critics review when he reviewed it not too long ago. Last month he reviewed it, but yeah, it's not that bad of a movie. It's actually kind of an enjoyable film. It's not a great movie overall. The story overall is pretty standard at best. But you do like all the actors in here. They are giving it their all. The animation is great. This is Framestore Animation, who, of course, have gone on to work on several notable animated movies as of late, and just a lot of movies in general. In fact, the blockbusters of the last 10 years, you probably have seen something where they provided the animation for it. One of the directors is Sam Fell, whose next film would be Paranorman, who, like animation's always been great, but Paranorman's one of their great films. This was written by Gary Ross, who is a prolific, well-known writer, who's written stuff like Dave. He wrote Pleasantville. He wrote and directed The Hunger Games. I think he also directed Pleasantville. The story's done by Will McRobb and Chris Riccardi. A lot is notable Nickelodeon writers. So there is a lot of good talent all across the board in here. The biggest flaw of the film overall really is the story, which is something that we've seen done to death so many times before in the past. And yeah, it's very formulaic, but if that really is the worst thing about the movie in general, then the film can't really be all that bad if everything else is working. And everything else in here does work really well. You do like getting invested with the characters. And Matthew Broderick, this is probably the more restrained I've ever seen him as Desperaux. Like, he's not playing the same character the same actor that you see in The Producers or Inspector Gadget or Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Like, he's much more restrained in this. He actually is playing a good role in here where he's not really asked to do a whole lot, but he adds so much to the table, and he's very good in the role. It fits very well. I mean, there's always been this kind of this flack against him, and he's made some bad movies. I mean, Inspector Gadget, Deck the Halls, but you forget that he's pretty good in The Producers. He's a great actor who's been around for so many years in Broadway, and this is the guy that spent the early parts of his career working with some really incredible, talented people. Ken Jennings, good lord. I say that because there was literally a Jeopardy commercial on the TV that when I'm doing my review of this, but because I got it on Game Show Network right now. But anyway, I'm talking about, he worked with John Hughes back in the day. He worked with Neil Simon. I mean, he did movies with Marlon Brando, Dustin Hoffman, Sean Connery. I mean, this guy is such a talented actor overall, and he's worked with some of the greatest actors of all time, and he's really not as bad as I think people make him out to be. And yeah, he's really good in this film, and everybody here plays their parts very well. It's a good movie overall. The story overall just is the biggest flaw of it. But other than that, though, everything else about it was surprisingly really good. I'm actually glad I got to see it because it is something that actually is worth watching. And yeah, if you like a lot of animated movies and want to see one of the last ones Universal did before they went on the Illumination train, Tale of Desperaux is definitely the way to go. It's one I definitely recommend checking out. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to easily the best movie of the weekend, and that's Darren Aronofsky's latest film, The Wrestler.
The Wrestler is the winner of 2 Golden Globes,
I'm an old, broken-down piece of meat.
including Best Actor Mickey Rourke.
I don't want you to hate me.
It's the performance of a lifetime.
I'm here.
The film of the year, The Wrestler, in cinemas now.
I mean, can you see why it's the best movie this weekend? It's one of the best movies of the year. The Wrestler is such a good movie, and you can see that, hey, Mickey Rourke still has some talent left in him. I mean, he was on a slow comeback pace in the second half of the decade, starting off with Sin City and then this movie, but he hasn't really done anything of noteworthiness since then, and it felt like the comeback was just so quick for him. I mean, he could have really had that Robert Downey Jr. type of comeback, but I mean, he just kept taking really bad movies one after another after this point. But in the movie, he plays a aging professional wrestler who, despite his failing health and waning fame, continues to wrestle due to financial hardships. And in an attempt to cling to the success of his 1980s heyday, he also tries to mend his relationship with his estranged daughter, played by Evan Rachel Wood, and to find romance with a woman who works as a stripper, played by Marissa Tomei. And yeah, if there's anything I can nitpick this movie for, there's a part in the movie where you see her at the strip club. I mean, Marissa Tomei has not aged at all. She's gotten hotter as time has gone on. But you're going to tell me that the people in the strip club are going to look at Marissa Tomei as a stripper and be like, oh, you're too old. You're not worthy enough to be on a stripper pole. It's just like, bitch, fuck you. Like, if there's anything I could say against the movie, it's that. But that's just nitpicking, because this is an overall really good movie with all these great performances. I mean, Marissa Tomei, people forget that she can also be a really good actress, too. I mean, yes, she won the Oscar for My Cousin Vinny, but she's made a lot of really good movies and proven that she is more than worthy of winning an Academy Award. Mickey Rourke should have won an Oscar for this. Yeah, I really feel like he should have been the front runner for this, but for some reason they decided to give Sean Penn another Oscar because he's Sean Penn, and I liked him. Like I said, I liked him in Milk, but he is definitely not the best performance compared to these other performances and the performances that were nominated that year. I mean, Frank Langella, and especially Mickey Rourke. Like I said, Mickey Rourke should have won this Oscar easily, but yeah, this movie overall is really good. And Darren Aronofsky, this is another one of his great films overall. The writer of this, Robert Siegel, has actually made a lot of good stuff as of late. He wrote Pam and Tommy and Welcome to Chippendales on Hulu. Both are absolutely fantastic, especially Pam and Tommy with Lily James and also Sebastian Stan playing Pam Anderson and Tommy Lee. Both are really good in that. That's one I highly recommend checking out. And yeah, this is definitely a master craftsman film with all these really good, talented people working on this project and coming together to make something incredible and entertaining and showing that a lot of these people that are in here still can act their ass off, and they are all very good in here. What more can I say, man? The Wrestler is an amazing film and one you should definitely check out. It's one of the year's best films, no question about it. The Wrestler, see this film. You need to see it. And so, with all of that said, we're going to wrap this edition of Time About the Movies up, and we are going to wrap 2008 up on the next episode with 8 movies, including several Oscar contenders. We have Owen Wilson and Jennifer Aniston starring in the big screen adaptation of Marley and Me, Adam Sandler starring in Bedtime Stories, his only movie with Disney. One of my favorite movies of the year, Brad Pitt and Cate Blanchett and David Fincher's The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. Tom Cruise's second and last film under his time at United Artists, Valkyrie, directed by Bryan Singer. The movie that is notable in history for me as the first movie I ever walked out of the theater, Frank Miller's The Spirit. We also have Revolutionary Road, the movie with Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet, and a film by Sam Mendes, their first movie together since Titanic. We also have Dustin Hoffman and Emma Thompson in Last Chance Harvey, and also the animated feature Waltz with Bashir. So we will take a look at all those movies to wrap 2008 up tomorrow on the show, so definitely be on the lookout for that. With all that said, though, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please go ahead and hit that playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, notification button, and the bell. That's where you get updates on when new videos come out, and we do post new videos here every day. So, with all that said, I'm off. I'll see you guys next time, and until then, as always, take care.